Mind over matter, overcompensating, overstatements, crookedness related, the soul's churn in return, mental overstimulation, one word, riveting.
I am Mad Poet, Alex Murdoch, the Mad Poet, and I'm your host for today. And to my right, you have my good fellow Strings. Check out his channel, Strings Theory. How you doing, Strings?
Good, man.
Ever since an infant, one has been searching for life's meaning, working in betwixt the subliminals like I never meant to see it. The great in-between, I can picture me in the workings like nuts and bolts, running like the crew that exists in the soil. Then one day, ambitions to grow, to feed the rebellious like the Seminoles, the early crows that never knows any bows or bounds, but from fabric, from clothes. Never let another surmise my good side or tell my darkest plight with a hint of light. For there is nothing soft about the heavy, spent too long lifting weights with words that weigh heavy like chrome, telling about the danger that exists. Thus, with humbleness as I reminisce. And that's the quote for today. I'm still, just figuring it myself. Of course, you're gonna have your opinion and your view, and I'm gonna do the same. But I'm curious to see where we end up with it. Just want to explore it somewhat.
Yeah.
I also have quotes. This guy's called Carl Jung.
Yeah, I think I've heard of him. Sounds familiar.
His expertise is psychology. I just wanted to give a quote. So the quote, there's one or two I might give. So this is the first one.
Yeah.
It says, the unconscious, if not regarded outright as a sort of refuse bin underneath the conscious mind, it is at any rate supposed to be of merely animal nature. In reality, however, and by definition, it is of uncertain extent and constitution, so that overvaluation or undervaluation of it is groundless and can be dismissed as mere prejudice. That's the first one.
That's a heavy quote. I'm gonna need a
whole fact.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a breakdown.
Since it is, I believe this is the part. Since it is universally believed that man is merely what his consciousness knows of itself. He regards himself as harmless, and so adds stupidity to iniquity. He does not deny that terrible things have happened and still go on happening, but it is always the others who do them. And when such deeds belong to the recent or remote past, they quickly and conveniently sink into the sea of forgetfulness, and the state of chronic woolly-minded returns, which we describe as normality. That's the other quote. Thoughts? So you want to go back to the first one?
Yeah.
All right. So the first one is basically he's sharing grounds basically to kind of somewhat share how the unconscious mind or subconscious, but the unconscious mind, as he said, is somewhat belittled or dismissed, thereby being placed or being labeled as something that belongs to the animal. Somewhat of a relic because of it, because we're no longer considered, we're a higher form of animals, not necessarily, So it's somewhat of a dismissal of the, or marginalizing of the unconscious, which is why I brought it up. Let me see if I missed anything. Yes, so I just read this part again. So I'll read it again so you kind of get a bit more gist of it. In reality, however, and by definition, it is of uncertain extent and constitution, so that overvaluation or undervaluation of it is groundless and can be dismissed as mere prejudice. At all events, such judgments would, I'm going to go further, but I think I missed the first part. The unconscious, if not regarded outright as sort of refuse, been underneath the conscious mind, is at any rate supposed to be of merely animal nature. In reality, however, and by definition, it is of uncertain extent and constitution, so that overvaluation or undervaluation of it is groundless and can be dismissed as mere prejudice. You see where I'm going with this?
Kinda. Tying it to the title. So, the first part, correct me along the way of my interpretation before we break this down. He's saying that the unconscious or subconscious, I prefer to say, isn't taken into consideration when you think about what it is and how we relate to it as a species. Thus being the case that animals, it's like saying that animals don't necessarily, they just think instinctively how to survive, eat, and thus go about their day. But by the definition itself, I've always assumed that it's just you putting every thought into the back of your mind and paying it no mind until it comes back up. And I want to double check that's what the definition is. So yeah, is it fair to say that's what it's generally trying to say?
Pretty much.
Okay, cool.
Hence the reason why it's somewhat of like an expression of the unconscious is somewhat marginalized. I'm going to give a bit more context after once we finish with these quotes, but it's also said, okay, I'll go over the second quote. Yeah, so since it is universally believed that man is merely what this consciousness knows of itself, what his consciousness knows of itself, he regards himself as harmless and so adds stupidity to iniquity. He does not deny that terrible things have happened and still go on happening, but it is always the others, and he had those in quotations, the others who do them. And when such deeds belong to the recent or remote past, they quickly and conveniently sink into a sea of forgetfulness, and that state of chronic woolly-mindedness returns, which we describe as normality. In essence, it's a lacking of accountability of things that's derived from the subconscious or the unconscious. Man plays it down, and again, going back to marginalize, and as he said, what's the word he used? wally-mindedness, that state of wally-mindedness, forgetful, sea of forgetful, sink into the sea of forgetfulness. You know, these are all things to somewhat blur the lines or kind of dismiss it as like, you know, it's not that serious. You know, it's stupidity, harmless. You know, so I suppose these are like societal norms in this day and age to somewhat kind of distance away from things to do with the unconscious, which is the reason why, you know, I somewhat thought it was apropos to kind of share this part of it. Ultimately, one of the things I have from this whole thing I'm reading about that he wrote, because, you know, it's a full it's a whole, you know, sort of kind of like a study he wrote. I'm just giving you little bits of it. And it kind of had me curious about the subconscious, the unconscious, but also the ideals of evil pertaining to the unconscious. Because, and I forgot, I should have shared that point as well, but there was a point where he's somewhat kind of expressing that, you know what, men or man or are only as aware as their conscious mind allows them to be, or their unconscious mind allow them to be. But to that degree, there are certain, the awareness of evil is ultimately where I'm going with this. And so it has me thinking about our perception on what evil is or what it is not, and ultimately how we see it or how it is described in this day and age. To the point, I also understand that the unconscious or the subconscious is not something that is there's not a great amount of knowledge to do with the unconscious, and to that degree it's like it's dismissed because people don't really necessarily want to understand it. And so that's why it's so easy to marginalize this thing. But when you speak of evil and all these different things, they are somewhat derivative from what I understand of the subconscious.
Okay. I think that's what I'm kind of curious to see how we make that bridge. Yeah, go on. No, I was just gonna say that. Yeah, I agree. On man does disregard it, but there is studies out there that I'm still finding different heightened viewpoints about what it is, which gives me some form of stability to understand how powerful it is, and that's always a word that is tied to it. And I think he comes to those viewpoints as well, Carl. I feel they call him what? The God? No, that's a different title. But a lot of his courses are inspired by his findings and just different, I want to say, studies and experiments about how he comes to these conclusions that he does. And yeah, second quote. Yeah, definitely. I feel, so I looked up the definition of unconscious, and it says not awake and aware of and responding to one's environment. And the second one is done or existing without one realizing. So that, I see the animal aspect of it. You just know that you got to eat, take care of yourself, and do whatever the day is expected of you. And you can see how if you pose a question that requires a bit more weight, I wonder if that's the case. But when one thinks and struggles to find an answer, I feel the lack of connection to their unconscious mind is why they struggle to find an answer, which is why ChatGPT is becoming such a phenomenon, because it requires you not to have that connection to yourself. But I'll come back to that in the discussion.
See, I find what you said very intriguing, because we especially with what we do, we somewhat just we're fueled by knowledge of self. To be an artist is to be a great artist is to have profound knowledge of self. But in this day and age, and this is something that he kind of shared that similar as well, where there's a fight between being part of this mass machine, which is one man, meaning a mass population, which is one man, ergo all thinking same thought of the same opinion, versus individualism, where we all have an opinion and we all have our own thoughts of being. And the idea is that it's a fight, meaning if I'm an individual, then that means the mass is divided, mean the big man mass of one thought, one being is divided, meaning the state is divided, meaning the state is divided, because ultimately that's what the state thrives on. Do you get what I mean? That's by design. However, if I'm stronger as an individual, having my own personal thought, ergo sovereignty, I divide the grand scheme. The state is divided. I somewhat am strong for myself, but not necessarily for the state. And by right, it's sort of like a fight between the two.
Okay, like that, yeah, I see.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, I think in this day and age, or with what we're seeing in our environment, our ecosystem, is like there's always designs or things being put into play to somewhat mold us into conformity. Of course, we know religion has a part to play in this whole thing as well.
Right.
However, religion is somewhat an entity by itself. Meaning, yes, religion has its own motive, but not necessarily aligned with the state. And it's somewhat different. It's somewhat subjective as well, because by right, religion has their own teachings, guidelines, and somewhat you have to follow. But And in between that, there is certain beliefs that might necessarily align with religion and the state, but that's not necessarily religious teachings. That becomes a creed.
Yeah.
Somewhat of a different thing. It's like a discipline unto itself, but it might be an amalgamation of the two. So that's interesting, you know what I mean? But we'll stick to the evil situation. But I've also, I understand that, there are different things mentioned over, from what I understand, that does depict the unconscious or outside of the conscious mind as somewhat of like, dismissive, perhaps evil. We always associate that part of things with darkness.
Okay, there's the bridge. I see it. Yeah. Wow.
And so that's where I'm heading with this.
Okay.
Darkness. I thought you were gonna say something, but
yeah. When you're ready, we start making these notes.
Yeah. So ultimately, anything to do with darkness, and also, especially to do with religion as well, is somewhat seen in a negative light, not necessarily something that should be explored or it's negated, it's reneged upon, which is, I find, very interesting, to say the least. But also, darkness is somewhat directly linked to the subconscious or the unconscious. And by right, it's you can understand why some of these outlooks or these expression or insight or viewpoints pertaining to the unconscious is somewhat of a negative, dismissive, symbolic in terms of like harmless, but by right that means harmful. And what I mean by that is the effects are harmless, but because of that, it's harmful. Because by default, it's harmless, meaning ignore it. I don't need to get to know. I don't need to understand it. But if you don't understand, you can't control it. You don't understand the capabilities, the potential of it. But because of that, yes, there are good, but there is also bad, or there's also potential for destruction. And if you don't understand the potential for destruction, you're somewhat prone to be destructive without whether you intended to or not. And so these are some of the things that stands out to me when it comes to this whole situation, to do this unconscious and subconscious, because it seems to me that people somewhat always are dismissive of this part of ourselves, and we avoid getting to know this part, to understand this part. It's sort of like and this is an example he used. If you think about the guy or the scientist that created the atomic bomb, the potential, and also, some of these things that we speak about, it comes from there, like it comes from that part of us, the subconscious. And what I mean by that is in the sense where, you're giving your subconscious instructions when you write things down, when you have a plan, when you're giving your subconscious instructions to find to align, to also find solutions to figure these things out. So going back to the atomic bomb now, these ideas, these inspiration, these solutions, these things are coming from great scientists, but it's coming from a subconscious place. But at the same time, we don't understand the extent or the dangers of what's in the subconscious, because we don't try to understand it on a psychological level. So essentially, I guess what he's saying is, to an extent, we don't know what we're doing. But at the same time, we are very dismissive of it. In a sense, we're labeling it evil. So it brings me back to my point now. It has me thinking, well, let's entertain that idea, right? It begs the question, what is evil? I know it's a heavy word.
Oh, bro. We do this every day. Yeah. I do this every day. But I appreciate how you have broken it down for the viewers. And as soon as you mentioned certain keywords and phrases, that's why I was waiting for it to be like, okay, not to say that I knew, but like I said at the beginning, I was curious to see how we get to that bridge. So that helps as well, just to make the picture clearer for us to do what we do here, man. And the first thing that came to mind is, you know me, I'm always going to use this book, man, the Bible. I need to read it more, you know. But I think a few years ago, I called it, I always had the comparison of, when you order a table from IKEA, they send you a little instruction manual about how to build it. It's the same thing with using one of these, a human body, to get through life. Obviously, we're complicated, so people are naturally going to be like, what do you mean? And some will be like, well, the 10 Commandments isn't really much, is it? Well, it's just glimpses, that's all it is. But why I bring up the Bible and this whole topic of darkness is, out of the darkness came light. And when I heard that necessarily means that darkness is older than light, it starts to make me think, who's really teaching who? So with that, hence what birthed this galactic story of good versus evil. Oh, we're cooking, we're getting somewhere. And that has always been the wage between an individual's sense of self, to help them understand that knowing how to navigate the both is a massive deal, like massive deal. And it always will be, because there's no simple way of understanding it, explaining it, expressing it, so to speak. But with that always being the case, it helps us understand over time, see why Carl Jung has always said what he said about it. His whole life work is explaining that. Like, yo.
Mind over matter. Overcompensating. Overstatements. Crookedness related. The soul's churn in return. Mental overstimulation.